west of Chicago. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is on the ground there, visiting the ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois, as hundreds of anti-ICE protesters gather outside. That facility serves as the federal processing hub for what's being called Operation Midway Blitz. Garrett Tenney is there, live now, 30 minutes due west of Chicago. Garrett, hello.
Yeah, Bill, good morning to you. We are now more than a month into these protests outside this ICE facility with hundreds of activists showing up. And today, for the first time, you can see Illinois State Police is here on the ground doing crowd control. And just minutes ago, Border Patrol agents came out, had some kind of conversation with police in the Sheriff's Department, and they have been asked to all put on gas masks. You can see them all putting on their gas mask now, so it appears something is imminently about to happen. State police have been lining this street, blocking it, trying to keep protesters from blocking the vehicles. That's what we've seen for more than a month now. That has been the big issue, is when these demonstrators have been blocking the vehicles from getting into the facility. That's been a complaint that ICE has said, to be able to say that's why we've been deploying all of these rubber bullets, this tear gas. And state police, for the first time today, are now out doing crowd control, blocking off these roads to try to allow these ICE vehicles to come in and out of the facility with those who they have arrested. But
they're pushing people around the back. Go around the back. Okay.
So now they are clearing this area out even further to be able to allow these vehicles to come in and out. It clears like they are trying to disperse this area. There's two sides of this facility, Bill, and on the opposite side where we are, overnight, police set up barricades to try to allow protesters to have some space to be able to protest while allowing vehicles to come in and out. But protesters simply today went over to this other side where there are no concrete piers, and that is why there's such a heavy police presence out here right now. But we've learned Secretary Kristi Noem is here on the ground today as well, and she was on the roof of the building a short time ago with Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino, who is heading up this operation. You can see this military vehicle that is coming up right now with a Border Patrol agent that is sitting out the top of that. And he appears to have a gun with pepper balls on him. And so, yeah, and they're moving this crowd back continually as we go here. But this is, over the last few weeks, has led to escalating tensions between federal agencies and local officials. And local officials have been increasingly complaining about the tactics that ICE has been using to allow their agents to do their jobs. They have been complaining local officials have not been doing them. And this is the first time today that we have seen state police here, the Sheriff's Department here, trying to do anything to keep these protesters from blocking ICE vehicles from coming in and out of this facility.
A lot of people are wearing gas masks there. I see the officers wearing them, I guess members of the media and others. And you know, we've been following Portland for a while, but Illinois has not reached this point until today. That's what you're saying, right, Garrett?
Well, we have seen tear gas, we have seen pepper bullets, we have seen rubber bullets that have been fired. But this is the first time we have seen a police presence here of this size, with state police and officers from Cook County Sheriff's Department as well. And they were clearly given some kind of instruction here from Border Patrol to go ahead and mask up.
Garrett, it's Dana. I think it's jarring to see the mask that, everyone is wearing. What's the concern that they're looking for? I know a part of it is for the agents to protect their identities, but are they also worried about something else?
Well, Dan, I can tell you, those masks came on just moments before we came on the air with you. They've had this presence all along the protest lines, trying to keep folks out of the street to allow these vehicles to come in and out of the processing facility. And we saw a large group of Border Patrol agents that came marching down the street, and they had some kind of conversation with local and state police. And at that point, that's when state police came over and told all of the officers along the side here to go ahead and mask up, because some type of enforcement operation potentially could be imminent as they are out here.
Any sign of how this was organized for the protesters?
Oh, this has been growing since even before Operation Midway Blitz commenced. It started with a couple dozen people, has now grown to at least a couple of times a week, hundreds of people. Today, just in this part alone, there's probably 250 people. On the other side of the facility, there's probably another 50 to 100 people over there. And this has been a big thing that has been organizing with a whole variety of activist groups that have been organizing to get folks out here. And really, this is to try to stop Operation Midway Blitz from going on. They've been trying to block federal vehicles from bringing those who have been detained. We know at least 900 people have been arrested as a part of Operation Midway Blitz so far, and these activists have been trying to block those vehicles, bringing people in who have been arrested for processing.
Garrett, we reported on this app on the iPhone that has now been taken down that follows the movement of ICE officers. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to the protesters as to whether or not, you know, they coordinate this today by the app or some other sort of communication. But is it also likely that they knew that Kristi Noem was coming today and this was a chance for them to show up in big numbers?
Yeah, we don't have any indications of that. What we do know is that every Friday, this is now the 5th Friday in a row that there's been a massive protest planned here outside the ICE facility. So this has been on the calendar going forward regularly. And while some of those apps tracking ICE officers' facilities have been taken down, I can tell you just yesterday, I received a text message update from a separate group that's notifying the public of the movements of federal officers, of having people report any sightings they see, and once those are confirmed, this group texted out to a wide text chain. So despite that app being taken down, there are still efforts ongoing to track federal agents in this enforcement operation that is happening here.
Garrett, stay there. Obviously, you'll get us the information as this story is developing as we bring in Paul Mauro, a Fox News contributor, former NYPD inspector, somebody who was at in Chicago with us last year at the convention. You're seeing this scene now. Garrett said that those masks that the officers are wearing came on just before we went to air with this. What do you see and observe from what you can tell?
So the first thing I would say is that it's a good sign that there are locals there. You and I were talking about this on the 5 the other day, and I said, where are the local police to pen the protesters in, allow them to have their First Amendment rights, but secure them in a specific area so the situation doesn't get out of hand? And from where I sat, the locals were under orders very clearly from above them to not get involved. And what that means is that ICE was getting less protection than the average citizen. It looks like somebody woke up and realized that we're going to have to try to control this situation locally as well as federally. So it's heartening to see them finally begin to use local assets. That's crucial. The other thing is, very clearly, it looks like the feds had some intel that they apprised the locals of. In a situation like this, the cops, all the different agencies are going to talk to each other. Hopefully, it's formalized. It shouldn't be as casual as they meet at the scene and somebody gives somebody a heads up, hey, put on your masks. You'd like to think the whole thing is being better coordinated, but unfortunately, on the local level, the local officials who are so against ICE being in their communities, it's not the police. They're going to do what they're told. It's a paramilitary organization. You want coordination here so that you're not wasting assets and so things don't get out of hand.
In terms of the operation in different American cities, and to our viewers, we're trying to track it as well as we can, and I know it can be very confusing at home. Geographically speaking, the question is this. Washington seems to have gone fairly smooth. LA was not smooth for a considerable time, and now it's quiet again. Memphis seems to be rather quiet. Portland, different story. And now Broadview, Illinois, west of Chicago, different story. Are those the two hot spots that you are tracking now?
Well, they certainly seem to be, and the common denominator
are there more?
Is a hostile governor, is really what it comes down to. Pritzker is not on board, Newsom is not on board, and so they're not coordinating, whereas in Tennessee, you got a lot more coordination. So consequently, you have probably, you read the tea leaves here, behind the scenes, people are talking to each other, which is, of course, what you always want, because that way things don't get out of hand. Excuse me, that goes for the protesters as well. NYPD is extremely experienced with this kind of stuff. You set up the pens so that they have a sight line so that they can see what they're protesting against. They get to do what they want. They get to make their noise. You allow even a certain leeway. They leave the pen. It's not an automatic arrest. You want to work with them so that they can feel like they had their voice heard. But at the same time, you don't want to give them the opportunity to disrupt, because that's that's how things get out of hand. And it's a little bit of a burnt fingers policy. If they go a little ways, then you let it happen. It gets worse, and gets worse. Next thing you know, they're throwing Molotov cocktails. That's what happened to us during the 2020, quote-unquote, Summer of Love. I was out there. It went way too far. There was way too much laxity in the enforcement. You have to pen this stuff in, make sure the organizers, they know who the organizers are. They're getting the intel as well as we are in media. And so you talk to the organizers and say, these are going to be the rules. And that's it. And generally, they'll work with you. But that doesn't seem to have been going on in situations where the local, and it comes down to the governors and the mayors.
Got it, but just to put a fine point on it, Portland, Oregon, and Broadview, Illinois are the two flashpoints as of now.
They certainly seem to be right now. Yeah.
But I think that because both sides are looking at this and going, well, the images that are going to be out there are the ones that they want. Trump is tough,
right,
and they have the protesters saying, but we're fighting back. So
that's right, and let's just hope that quote-unquote fighting back doesn't become something like we've seen down in Texas.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. Thank you, Paul. Well done.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.